Joining the military can be fun, it can be exciting, it can be the adventure of a lifetime. And it absolutely should be. That is the reason that most men and women join. But for more people than ever before, this adventure is not permanent, it's not forever. So today I want to talk about life after the military. The ups, the downs, the head start and the skills that it gives you, the advantages that you can absorb from it and help you slingshot your way forward into your next venture in life, but also some of the downsides and some of the things that a lot of guys struggle with when they reintegrate into life as a civilian. So if you're either currently serving or you used to serve, you'll probably remember that one of the best things possible when you leave is that you do get infinitely more control over your day-to-day routine. Especially when you compare it to training, which isn't like a job, it is just a flipping all-encompassing life that doesn't really exist anything beyond it. You don't have hobbies and fucking clubs that you're part of outside of commando training. And even when you're in a military unit and the times are a little bit more concrete, it might be that you get thinned out at 3 p.m. But the fact of the matter is, if there's a detail in the evening, you do have to be there. If there's something at the weekend, if there's an exercise for 2-3 weeks or 3 months, realistically, zoom out in the macro, you don't really get that much control over your day-to-day life. If one of your mates is getting married in 9 months' time, but your commando unit is on exercise, you ain't going to the wedding. So one of the benefits, one of the ups that I definitely experienced when I left the military, it took a while to kind of have this flipping sink in, but you just get a little bit more conviction that you can actually make long-term plans without anything getting in the way. You're not going to be deployed, you're not going to be shipped off. And realistically, whatever job you go into in Civvy Street is going to have infinitely more flexibility than the military has. And that's not slinging mud at the military. It has to be that way, and I'm glad it was like that. But it was definitely something that I experienced joy with when I realized that I just had more fucking control over my own day-to-day routine. Once you're outside the confines of specific working hours, you're basically fine in pretty much any job in Civvy Street. Whereas when you serve, and it's really not like that. So more freedom of day-to-day routine and being in more control over big events in your future, 2 massive benefits straight off the bat. Number 3, this is something that again might not necessarily be true for all of you, and it's going to depend on your civvy experience and depend also on your military experience. And I can't really say to this specifically because I'm self-employed, but speaking to pretty much every single one of my civvy mates that has a quote-unquote normal job, the overall ambient level of fucking fairness and justice basically pervades through everything at a much higher level than it does in the military, where realistically, you can be the best bootneck or you can be the best soldier or whatever, you spill a little bit of cup of tea on the boot of your fucking stripey, who's in an angry mood that day, and lo and behold, you don't get beasted with a 5k run, you get beasted by being a chef for the next 4 years of your life. So the absolute lack of vigilante justice in Civvy Street is one of the benefits. And again, the self-policing stuff, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. It really is context dependent, and there are so many nuances on this. But I have to say, that stuff never really sat particularly well with me when people could be good at their job, but there's just one bloke who you happen to piss off, and they just have this fucking level of omnipotent power to just completely make your life hell in a completely disproportionate way. I'm not talking about self-policing as in like in the military, if someone keeps making mistakes and they're really cocky and they don't care about the fact that they keep bloody NDing everywhere, they're gonna get charged and they're gonna get fucking beasted until they get it in their head that they need to be able to execute their job properly, because what we do is life and death, right? It's serious stuff. That level of rational self-policing isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about one of the benefits of Civvy Street being moving away from the completely ridiculous like kangaroo court style vigilante justice that parts of the military have, usually when they're not actually active and they've got nothing to do, and you just get these pent-up alpha males that don't know what the hell to do, and you know, someone didn't do their belt buckle properly that day, so lo and behold they have to sleep outside for 2 weeks. That's the kind of disproportionate insanity that I was very happy to leave and park when I moved back into the civilian world. Okay, so you've got more control over your day-to-day, bit more of a master of your own destiny in terms of big events in the future, and a bit more of a rational justice system where people are screened properly for promotion and you can't get absolutely beasted because one sergeant major had a bad day. So what are some of the downsides of leaving the military, and what are the kind of mental models that people struggle with when they do re-enter Civvy Street? One of the primary ones that a lot of you probably would have already thought about, is basically no sense of purpose greater than yourself. Being a cog in a bigger machine is this idea that's weirdly vilified by the modern entrepreneurial movement, but I can absolutely fucking assure you, wearing exactly the same uniform as someone else and feeling as though you are part of this organism or mechanism that is bigger than just one person, but knowing that you have a part to play in it, can actually be unbelievably nourishing. And I think once you move out of that, moving into Civvy Street, not feeling as though you're part of a bigger machine that you really buy into and you take pride in, can be something that a lot of guys struggle with, especially in the military as well, because it is very transparent in terms of your job. Like, it's very easy for somebody to spot you if you're being lazy or if you're putting in a hell of a lot of effort. And the fact there's nowhere to hide a lot of the time kind of keeps you accountable. And effort realistically is rewarded, even if it's just a little pat on the back or good job, bro, whatever the fuck it is. Those things mean so much when you're bleeding from the eyes, when you're doing the best goddamn job that you can for your fire team, section, troop, company, whatever it may be. Transitioning then into Civvy Street, where there might be a little bit more bureaucracy and some bullshit politics. You might not necessarily get the pat on the back that you feel as though you deserve. Your hard work might be sat at a desk, therefore not as obviously visible. And you notice other people sucking up to the boss but not really doing anything, definitely getting a lot of praise and a promotion. Feeling as though every part or every cog or wheel of this new machine doesn't necessarily strive to work hard for the good of this machine can be a really flipping, like, sobering and humbling and like disillusioning part of re-entering civvy life, especially a new civvy job. Another thing is that it can just be quite underwhelming. So basically, I didn't really think I was going to struggle. I maintained like a really strong relationship with my civvy mates, right? So I was like, I'm not that core pissed, I'm not that bought into the military compared to some of the other guys. I don't really think I'm going to struggle with the transition. I still spent a lot of time with my civvy girlfriend at the time, with a lot of my civvy friends. I wasn't completely immersed and wrapped up in the military world. And I have to say, I was humbled a little bit when I came out, because I was absolutely affronted with a few more struggles than I thought. One of them being the general fucking ambient, underwhelming nature of basically anything I did. So I only spent 4.5 years in the military, right? But I did a couple of AT packages and I served in both Iraq and Afghanistan in that 4.5 year period. So it was quite a busy career, right? So then when you get out of that, and I basically went straight into international sport, which was cool, and there's a big military presence there, so that was quite a soft transition. But then when I went into Civvy Street properly, I started to run my own company, but I started to speak to a lot of guys that were also doing kind of similar things. And when you're like an adrenaline-driven, dopamine-dependent man, everything seems just a bit boring and a bit trivial because it doesn't really seem important. So that ambient, underwhelming, that feeling of underwhelm that was like ubiquitous in fucking everything that I was doing was quite hard to get over, because I actually personally found it quite hard to motivate myself, because I was like, well, if you're not in the middle of a contact, or you're not on sentry at 3 AM wondering whether or not someone is in front of you digging in a bomb in the road, nothing really seems that crucial, nothing seems that time sensitive. So struggling to try and convince yourself to overcome that underwhelm and actually get yourself G'd up was something that I definitely struggled with a lot more than I was expecting to. Third one, lack of structure, no set boundaries. This is quite unsettling. I think people that gob off about wanting ultimate freedom, I personally believe that people want to feel completely free within a container. And this is the reason babies and kids act out right. They want to feel as though there are set boundaries so they're safe. It's the reason why people kick off with their partner or their parents at a certain time, because they want to stress test that there are boundaries there, so that they feel safe in the fact that those boundaries exist. So they can kick off, they can do whatever, they can be free within the confines of that. And having no real set structure, especially as a lot of ex-military go into self-employment, setting those boundaries to for yourself can be a really interesting paradigm, because you're like, well, when you're in the military, if you don't do the job that you've been told to do, the downsides are normally pretty severe. You get charged, someone else gets in the shit, someone might get fucking shot or blown up. These boundaries and structures in the military that a lot of young guys that are effectively really hyper energetic guys, one of the reasons they're attracted to the military is the feeling of safe, whether we're aware of it or not, whether it's conscious or not, is the feeling of safety that you get within the confines of that structure and the confines and boundaries and the firm fucking walls of that paradigm. And especially when you go from that into self-employment, it's such a big transition, because you set your own goals, you set your own time limits, you set your own action steps, and then you're like, well, what's the downside? What's actually the negative downstream effect if I don't end up doing this today and I wait till tomorrow or next week or month? To be honest, it's not really going to matter, because like, who the fuck's going to tell me off, because I'm my own boss. The swing from military, especially into self-employment, can be a very hard one when you are somebody who can kind of let yourself off the hook a little bit too easy, because you don't have an external source of accountability. When it's completely intrinsic, that can be incredible at times, but when the compression and the dopamine starts to drop, it can be really fucking hard to hold yourself accountable to a deadline that you've set for yourself. And the fourth one, as you probably imagine as well, a lack of brotherhood. If we look at the military as having two different external sources of growth and motivation, you've got the military structure as a whole and your hierarchy, and that is effectively the bit that becomes hard in self-employment when you don't have a boss setting you guidelines. But also, if you've got no oppos, if you've got no other men and women that are at your level that you're attempting to compete with, that someone's been getting closer to your level of performance and you're trying to, stay in front of them, or you're getting closer to somebody else's and you're trying to overtake them and climb up the dominance hierarchy or the status ladder within that group, that can be really difficult as well, especially in self-employment. If you join a company and you've got a team around you, then that competitive nature with the other guys and girls around you can be there, but especially into self-employment, it can be a bit of a challenge. There we go, guys, just a little snippet of a window into the deep, dark recesses of my own psyche. A couple of the pros and the cons, a couple of the ups and the downs, kind of logistically and emotionally and practically, of people who leave the military and get either a normal job after or move into self-employment from there. Any questions on anything I've covered, guys, please put it down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, please do smash that like button. If you haven't yet done so, make sure you subscribe. And as always, beautiful people, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I'll see you all in the next video.